Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of American Gothic. Many different things went down in this episode. I'm just going to run down the list, kind of talk about everything, obviously. One, we kind of got introduced to the whole, the grandmother, at least, Madeline's mom. It seems like she was the one that sent her the letter with the flowers, and she was getting money out of the bank account. I was like, okay, so I knew she was paying off someone. I just wasn't expecting it to be her mother, and to find out, because we end up seeing that she's all the way in Pennsylvania. But it was very interesting getting to see a little bit of her mom. Like, we got to see what kind of person she was prior to, like, with everything said and done. Like, it was really sad that it came down to, like, she's like, Madeline has said, like, oh, it was Mitchell who said, like, keep you out of the kids' lives. It's like, nope, I said that to save your feelings. It was actually me. I realize you're a terrible person. Obviously, she didn't say that, but she's like, you're a terrible person. You're very messed up, and I don't want you contaminating my kids like that. And so basically gave her a choice. She's basically figured out, it's like, you called me here because you want to make me feel guilty, so I'd pay you more money. So basically, it could go one of two ways. One, you can get in the car right now, and we can go see your grandchildren, or you could stay here and I will double the amount of money that I pay you every month, and don't ever contact me again. And you see Madeline actually kind of tearing up in the car, because she was, at the very least, she was hoping, she knew she was right, but there was a part of her hoping she was wrong, and be like, your mom would make the choice to be like, I want to be a part of your kids' lives. It's not all about the money, but sadly, it seems to be the case. I mean, we saw that, and just the way Madeline was talking about her to Cam, because she brought up the fact that the reason why she's so hard on Cam is because her mom has an addiction. Granted, her mom had an addiction, and that being alcohol. And we kind of see all that to a certain extent, because she was driving while drunk, almost. Madeline was sitting over there where she drove, so if she wasn't careful, she could have ended up killing her daughter if, like, Madeline hadn't moved at that time. So, even running over her own flowers, but nevertheless, it's just like she was just. I was like, wow, you were just at work, you went to the bar, and then you came to see your daughter? I'm glad to see where your priorities line up. But basically, the booze was kind of make her, I guess, either give her liquid courage to, like, put her in the right mindset to fake out Madeline about the money situation. But the fact of the matter is, it's just kind of like, she makes it sound like her mom wasn't always the best growing up either. Like, it's not just a recent thing. Her mom is like, the reason why she doesn't want her children to be around her mom is because she got out of that as soon as she could. Like, when she was old enough, she left that behind because she didn't want anything to do with her mom, because her mom kind of gave her kind of a rough childhood, so she didn't want to kind of pass that on to her children. And she sees that kind of reflected in Cam, and that's why she's kind of like, I don't want to see that kind of like that cycle repeat with you and Jack. So But from that conversation, she said my mom was an addict. So the understanding is her mom's dead. Like, to her, like, she's probably always told everyone that her mom is dead. Which, I don't know. I don't know whether that's just kind of establishing who Madeline is, kind of learning a little bit about her past and her family issues, like some of this, or just in general, some of the secrets she's keeping. Or does the grandma have some secrets of her own that could, kind of screw Madeline over in those regards? It's like, is it just her rocky childhood and her being a rocky mom? Could that be the only reason why she's being kept away, or are there other reasons? Just like there were other reasons why she was selling off Mitchell's company. So, but we'll get into that. But what I was saying is, like, we actually got a little bit look at her character before all that, because she cheated that guy. Like, he basically gave her 20. She only gave him $4 back. He's like, I gave you a 20. She's like, no. She showed him a $10 bill. He's like, oh, you're right, my mistake. Turns out she switched it around. It's like, that's some shady crap right there. Like, who does that? And even Madeline pointed out, she's like, I'm literally paying you every month. Why would you need to cheat somebody out of their money like that? She was saying just to keep her skills up, to make sure she still got her wits about her. It's kind of like, that's some shady crap. Then in this episode, we also had Brady. It's very interesting. Like, I always knew this, like, constantly brought it up that this is going to be an interesting storyline. I'm seeing that Brady's kind of caught between the two. Caught between wanting to protect the family, because he legitimately does. Because when everyone's suspecting Cam, it's like, he didn't really believe it was Cam. He's like, Cam's high on drugs a lot of time, but there's no way he has, like, the meticulous attention needed to commit these crimes. Granted, Cutter was like, well, the fact of the matter is he is an artist and he has that meticulous eye. So, but Brady has to balance between, trying to protect the family. Really, whether it's really for the family's sake, I don't know. I honestly don't really know how he feels about them individually. Like, truth be told, as he's only doing this for Tess because he loves her so much. He wants to prove her family's innocent so everything could be let go and they could get back to normal. Because, I mean, she's still kind of pissed at him because it's like, here's a needle that I saw Cam about to shoot up with. Give me that, like, I will only run this if I have your permission. She's like, no, you don't. So, but it kind of put him in a tough spot because even because I guess it did to a certain extent come out about the whole mix up. Granted, that girl, lab girl Dana, took the fall for it, but obviously Cutter still got her suspicions. It's like, oh, if anything, because when Tess was finally like, okay, let's test the needle, because Cutter was basically interrogating everybody, going to Allison's office, going to their house, also even talking to Jack at school, like, which, from a legal standpoint, you shouldn't do that because you're not supposed to talk to a minor without a parent or guardian to be there to supervise. So that was very illegal on that part. Enough police procedurals and crime drama have taught me a little bit about the law. So, but nevertheless, because she has, you could tell she's kind of like got a gut feeling about the family and she just wants to just get to the truth as soon as possible. And we kind of saw a little bit of a different side to Jack in that situation. He's like, oh, Dad's going to go to jail. Like, I guess he's fine with being morbid. He's fine with death, but he doesn't want his dad to be locked up and away from him forever. He loves his dad. So, but it's interesting seeing that side to him because you see, he's always been that morbid kid who's just kind of fascinated with death. But it's kind of like when it comes to his dad going to jail, like, it's because that's not him dying. That's him being locked away and him never seeing him again. So we kind of saw a little bit of that side of him, which it feels a little out of character, but I guess it is to kind of, like, we've seen, like, show that he isn't just kind of that kid who's a little off his rocker. Like, there are more depths to him than that. But when she was like, Tess was like, finally, you know what? I want this to end. Give them the needle. And everybody's like, yo, if there comes back inconclusive, like, there's some hanky stuff going on with this, there's going to be deep trouble. He's like, go right ahead. And basically, Tess came back and was like, yay, the killer isn't Cam. Oh, but it is someone in the Hawthorne family, which in itself is going to make an interesting dynamic too, because it's like the only people who know. I mean, really, this all depends on the next episode. Will Tess actually tell anybody that? I don't know. She's probably going to keep that to herself. Brady will probably like, it's best you keep it to yourself and basically you watch your family. He said familial. So basically, yes, you could argue it could, the only other person is Garrett, but that doesn't necessarily mean it was Garrett who killed him. And it's like, I don't know. I'm going to get to Garrett in a second, but that'd be kind of interesting. Tess having to struggle with knowing that information, but not telling anyone else that she knows that information. So, and that's kind of a secret between her and Brady. And that might cause rift between her and the family because it's like, oh, she looks at everyone very suspiciously. And then the family will find out like, oh, you knew this and you kept it from us. Like, have you been spying on us? Have you thought we were guilty? You should have told us this from the beginning, Tess. I feel like that type of situation is going to come, especially from Allison and maybe even Garrett, because maybe there'll be a point where she gets suspicious of Garrett, because out of anyone she has always been the least suspicious of Garrett. Like, she's the only person in the family that's welcomed him back with open arms, because everyone else has had their reservations about him. But I think that'd be kind of interesting to kind of see, oh, she actually starts suspecting him and he realizes, oh, that's why you're getting close to me, because you actually think I'm a killer, and it kind of ruins the relationship. It's one way the story can end up going. And speaking of Garrett, we get multiple things with him this episode. One, picking up where we saw last episode with him and his doctor friend. Obviously, like, her neighbor or friend was like walking her dog or whatever and came back in the middle of things. To me, it didn't look like he was about to strangle her. Yes, you could be like, it's still up for debate, but to me, it looked like he was just holding the belt in his hand because he sees like, oh, this is the daughter of one of the Silver Bell killer's victims. This is, and here I am holding a belt in his hand. Knowing what he knows, whatever it is that he knows, it kind of flashed in his head, and it seemed like, I interpreted it as it looked like he was only going to kiss her, that he wasn't going to strangle her with the belt, because it didn't seem like he readied the belt. It was just in his hand. But nevertheless, he backed out of it just because it just became too much for him. I mean, he didn't tell her this, but he immediately left. And also in this episode, we got a very interesting conversation between Allison and Garrett, because the fact of the matter is, like, because it's kind of like, oh, Tess left us here to look after Cameron together, and it's just, well, while Cameron's detox, going with the withdrawal, and then they're just kind of there. It's kind of awkward. Like, I still don't think Garrett 100% knows for sure that Allison set him up to be arrested that day of their dad's funeral. Maybe he does. He has an idea, but he hasn't said anything about it. He didn't say anything about it then. But he's just like, yeah, I can tell you don't like me much. He's like, I get, like, I don't get, like, why you have, it seems like you've been avoiding me. She's like, I can't be like Tess. Tess can welcome you back, but it's just like, you can't just come back to this family after all these years and just kind of be expected to be welcomed back like nothing's happened. And he's like, you don't know what went down. You have no idea what went down. And she's like, tell me. He's like, don't you have secrets that you keep to protect people? Which she, that's kind of, in a sense, it's almost like her job in the family is just kind of like bury secrets, especially being a politician, but to bury secrets to make sure nothing comes back on the family. So, I mean, especially when you consider what happened to her earlier in the episode, where that would find out the girl that it wasn't like, oh, that's Nyomi's significant other or anything. It's like, no, that's a girl that works there that's trying to blackmail them. It's like, oh, give me a better position, or I go out there and tell everyone about your little affair. Which, granted, Nyomi, like, complied and was like, oh, here's a better job, but then set her up and then fired her. So that was kind of interesting. That, I get the feeling, is going to come back to bite them in the ass. Surprisingly, that relationship hasn't gone as destructive as I thought it was, just because, like, the whole affair thing, affairs don't always work out per se. I mean, it seems like her husband's okay with it, but the fact of the matter is, like, I'm surprised she hasn't got to the point like, oh, you won't show me any public displays of affection. Oh, we can be behind closed doors, but once we're out in the open, I mean, maybe it's because naturally Nyomi is a professional. Maybe she's trying to keep things professional, so she's like okay with that. She's like, but the moment you become mayor, this gets serious. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just thinking too hard and looking too much into the situation. Maybe she's not one of those people. Maybe she doesn't want it to be anything more. Maybe she's okay with having fun and just wants it to stay that way. I mean, that's completely optional. I mean, that's obviously like a route it could go too. I mean, but I feel like, I don't know, I just get the feeling it's more than that. I feel like it's more than just lusting. I feel like there's a little intimacy behind it. Like, there is some heart behind it. There's some feelings. But we'll just have to wait and see. But, she kept, she's got that, plus everything else that's happening in the family with the whole silver bells. She was like, oh yeah, let's hide that. It's going to ruin the family name, obviously screw up her election. Nonetheless, that was, kind of an approach. And it's just kind of like, yeah, out of anyone in the families, they kind of have the biggest secrets. I mean, Cam too, just because of what he remembered this episode. But now that means literally now everyone in the family has a secret. That, like I said, this all is determined. This will all be conclusive depending on whether Tess tells everyone next episode about what Brady told her at the end of the episode about being someone in the family. Whether she'll tell them or not, I don't think she will, but maybe she will. Who knows? Well, that, like I said, wait and see. And speaking of all that, what I find really interesting about Garrett in this episode too, it does seem like he's opening up a little bit more to his siblings. Like, he's there for Cam, helping him, going through his withdrawal, being there for him. Even noting the fact is, he's like, yeah, I read one of your comics. Like, he referenced one of Cam's comics. It's like, you read it? He's like, yeah, there's newspapers in Maine as well. And basically, he also, like, had that whole conversation. She was like, Allison was cutting him up some bananas because he needs the potassium. And he's like, that, Cam doesn't like bananas, right? She's like, teenage Cam didn't like bananas. Basically saying things are different. That's what kind of sparked the whole thing. But then, he cut up another fruit and be like, oh yeah, this has more potassium. So it's kind of interesting. He does, like, in the beginning, like I said that it seemed like all he cared about was Tess, but each episode we see him caring a little bit more. It does seem like he is trying to get back closer to his siblings. Granted, his mom he's keeping at a distance, but everyone else, it does seem like he is legitimately trying to fix things with them. He it even had a conversation between him and Allison where Allison was like, yeah, I know why you tied up Cam. That's good and everything, but next time just call us, first before you do something like that. And even Tess is joking like, I think she's warming up to, and it does seem like that. It does seem like she's kind of lowering her guard around him a little bit. So that's kind of cool. And then speaking of Cam, we saw these different things while he was withdrawing, basically thinking about what he talked about in that therapy session, seeing a body. Basically, I was under the impression it's like, oh, it's a body he saw in the wood. Now, some thoughts that went through my mind while this whole thing was going down, because basically he saw someone dragging a body from the house, and he was like, I don't know who it was. Don't know whether it was me, whether it was Garrett, or whether it was Dad. Like, there's no telling who it could have been. My current running theory just is maybe like, well, it's not currently. It was just kind of something that was floating through my mind during the episode. I was like, what if Cam came across a body that was like a SBK victim, and the dad didn't want him to be tied to it, so the dad covered it up, paid to get it covered up, and that's why Cam's belt is associated to the body and is there and everything. Like, I don't know. There's so many questions. Like, there's so many different ways everything could actually play out. I'm very interested to see where it goes. Like, how did Cam's belt get there? I feel like, as we've seen, their dad did kind of cut corners with the business. Granted, I don't know whether that was his choice or was that other people kind of keeping him in the dark about those type of things. But it's like, if their dad was that kind of person to cut corners, who's to say he wouldn't cover up a murder just to protect his son, Maybe he believes Cam did it when Cam actually didn't, and he just covered up the murder, so that's why their DNA is kind of like, hey, there's someone's blood, because someone, particularly the dad, got blood on his hand, on the belt when he was trying to dispose of that evidence because he thought Cam did it when actually Cam didn't. Who knows? I did like the fact is we did have Garrett trying to convince Cam. It's like, yeah, it didn't happen. It just all the, going through withdrawal kind of messed with your head and stuff like that. But he looked at the stairs because, the body hit one of the things in the stairs and kind of scratched it a little bit. And he scratched away the paint and saw some markings. So in his mind thinking like, okay, it's real now. So, then we also finally have Garrett taking Dr. Lady off somewhere to kind of tell her, I guess, like explain things a little bit more, really show her who he is, kind of open up a little bit. So many questions all around. For one, I'm also curious, like, what is Cam going to do about the whole Sophie situation? Like, it's, like she did screw a drug dealer just to pay off her debt. So will he be able to forgive her? Like, is he going to completely cut her off now? As like, I went through so much because of you. I've been I've kind of gotten I've kind of gotten past withdrawal. I'm kind of back on that, the right path. Cause like I was clean for like almost a year and then just now just kind of falling apart again. So will he push back now? Because before he's been so like, okay, I'm gonna do it. But now that he's kind of been forced in the situation to kind of stop, maybe, especially he might want to keep a clear head now because of his discovery. Being like, okay, what I was seeing in my head, all those hallucinations weren't just hallucinations. There's some truth to it. So maybe he's going to try and keep a clear head from now on. So maybe he'll actually watch. No, I forgot. I'm about to say he watched those tapes. He can't. Not tapes, the recorded sessions. Because they were on CDs, not tapes. Stupid. Like, I'm treating this like it was super, super old. Because that was back in 2002. I'm like I said, being an idiot. But nevertheless, he can't. I forgot. He actually broke the CD that it was on. So then we also have, like, what is Garrett playing with the girl? I don't think it's like, I'm going to set you up and kill you right now. It's like no, he's probably going to confess to her who he really is. Because he's yet to really tell her who he is. Like, I'm a Hawthorne. Yeah, the same ones that have some connection to your dad dying, have some connection to SBK, even if, because she's still under the impression it was their gardener, Gunther, who did it. So she thinks SBK's dealt with. So, or, maybe he's going to open up a little bit more. Maybe through through her, we'll find out more about why Garrett left. Like, what caused the big rift between him and his dad, like, or just the family in general. Find out maybe some more of those secrets that his mom has buried. So maybe some secrets even his dad has buried. So overall, a very good episode and cannot wait to see where everything goes from here. But that's really all I want to talk about this episode. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.